Oh, it's time. So time.
It's
And
so time.
That you're wearing one of my favorite T-shirts. And I have a sweatshirt like that. It's the UP with the Chapel Rock tree on it and the hiker, and that's a great T-shirt. So, yep.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites, and it makes me want to be up there.
Nice. I'm wearing this Michigan State Mammal T-shirt, which is a unicorn. So,
as if unicorns would ever live here.
No, they wouldn't. They would be someplace much nicer, but whatever. Yeah. So I'm all tired. I'm all tuckered out today, Ann, because I finally. Hey, Suzanne Donut Williams is with us. Suzanne, how are you?
Hi, Suzanne.
Suzanne and I went to high school together. We played softball together, so it's great. Right. And you live down in Florida now, I believe, Suzanne. I think that's where you live now. So, welcome. Thank you for joining us. What was I going to say? Oh, I put together one of the flower beds that you taught me / garden beds how today. That was my job today. And so Joe and I went like last weekend and we bought all of our cinder blocks and we put them in a truck and then we dropped them in a space that I thought would be a good space for a bed, but then it wasn't. And then I was like, crap, I got to move all this crap. Crap. So then I considered like walking them across the yard, and I picked one up and I was like, nope, not walking this across. So then what I did is I figured out a route through my yard with my car, and I would put 4 in my trunk and then drive them over and take them out. Put 4 in my trunk and drive over. So I did it, and then I put it all together. And I'm going to tell you, I feel accomplished. I feel like I did something cool. I'm cool. Yeah. So anyway, it was very exciting. So as a reward for Suzanne said she is living in Daytona Beach. Yes, Daytona Beach, Florida. Right on. That sounds nice right now. I was just lamenting how I might have to find a way to Lake Superior tomorrow because I need a Lake Superior fix, and it is my cleansing. It is my place where I go to be happy, and I haven't been there all year, and I'm sad and I miss it. I'm going to fix that. So anyway, sorry, I'm all over the place today. My reward for putting together my garden bed today was this delicious zombie that I'm drinking right now.
That too. But I also wish I had some bugles to go with it to put on my fingers and eat them while I drink my zombie.
God, that sounds good. See, that's another thing that I'm missing. Is that normally in the summertime, you and I manage to get together and we sit on a beach and we drink stuff and we eat stuff, including bugles. And then, because bugles are, and then you have like the spray cheese that goes with that.
Because then you fill up the whole horn with spray cheese.
Yes, you fill your bugle with spray cheese. And then you have your chicken and biscuit crackers, which you also put your spray cheese on. So, yeah, I'm missing that this year. So I'm going to have to recreate that in some way, shape, or form. But so anyway, our drink of choice today is the zombie because the movie we are featuring today is The Cabin in the Woods. And zombies do play a predominant role within the movie Cabin in the Woods. So it's only fitting that the zombie is our drink of choice. And would you like to learn about the zombie?
I would like to learn about the zombie. I would like to know what is getting me drunk right now. More about
Ann, it just so happens that you're drinking a zombie, and it's very fitting. Ann, can you hold up your glass so that everybody can see your glass real quick like a bunny? Yes, Ann's holding up a traditional tiki glass, which is perfect because the zombie is a tiki drink. And I got to tell you, when I looked at the recipe for this, my jaw hit the floor because I was like, damn, that's a lot of alcohol. All right. So who thinks of this drink of the zombie? Because if you think everybody's like, ooh, Long Island iced tea has got so much alcohol in it. And the truth is, not compared to a zombie. We'll get to that. All right. So what demented human being thinks of a drink, the zombie? The zombie, like so many classic drinks, was born in the 1930s, 1934 to be exact. Prohibition has just been repealed. And so a gentleman by the name of Don Beach buys a small space right next door, in fact, pretty much attached to the McCadden Hotel. He opens a bar, and it's called the Beachcomber Bar, owned by Don Beach. And he made a tiki bar. He had been quite a world traveler, had been to Polynesia a number of times, and he brought home many trinkets from his travels. And so he eventually set up what he called a tiki bar. And then he made several drinks that he considered tiki drinks, and they were things like, God, I'm trying to think of some of the names, like the Vicious Virgin and the Missionary's Demise, and things like that. Anyway, apparently one of his patrons was not feeling well, pretty hungover, and so he was looking for a pick-me-up. And so Don Beach makes this drink and says, "Hey, this is going to make you feel better." Well, it didn't. It did just the opposite. In fact, the patron was overheard saying that the drink nearly killed him, and it made him feel like a zombie. Hence the name. The drink was born. The rest is history. It is the zombie. So, and I don't know if that's true or not. It could be some old wives' tale, but it's a fun story. So we're going to go with it. So, as you can see, the classic version of the zombie is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. In fact, I will admit right now that I am drinking a modified zombie, because if I were to drink what's in a traditional zombie, I'd already be dead.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I wouldn't have made it to the broadcast.
Holy hell, no. Because here's what it is, you guys. It's an ounce of rum. So an ounce of white rum, an ounce of golden rum, and an ounce of dark rum. So we're already at 3 ounces of booze in this drink, and an ounce of apricot brandy. There's 4. We're gonna dumb that down with some pineapple juice, some orange juice, some papaya juice, but then we're gonna top it off with a ½ ounce of 151 rum, which is the kind that you can light on fire. This reminds me of an episode that I had when I was first dating my husband, where we went to one of those hibachi places and we ordered one of those volcano drinks. And then not only did I proceed to drink most of the volcano, but I also drank the fiery 151 at the top. We might have had dinner after that. I do not know. So anyway, yeah, this drink, if you are drinking the traditional recipe, literally is death in a cup. So, in fact, they found at the Beachcomber bar, they found that this drink was becoming a problem, and so they would limit customers to just 2 per visit. So, I know, but still, 2 of these. 2. That's 1, 2, 3, 4
8
ounces. Yeah, it's a lot of rum. That's a lot of booze. And 151. I mean, 151 proof means that it is. What is that? Because proof is like your percentage of alcohol divided by 2. So that's like 70, just over 75% alcohol. That's ridiculous. Like even 100 proof spirits are only 50% alcohol. So yeah, that's a ridiculous amount of alcohol in a drink. So I will say that my modified zombie is still quite delicious and not nearly as, we'll call it, deadly. So look, I have a cool cup too. So so anyway, that's what's happening with the zombie. And again, we thought it would be fitting to have a zombie because the movie that this was Anne's choice this week. Anne chose, and I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do a stop screen on that. And we're going to go ahead and bring this into the picture. Boom, Cabin in the Woods. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So this was the movie we chose this week. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some horror movies on the back end of that. Because, Ann Brothers, let's face it, the horror genre has been a thing for you and I since we were kids.
It has been. Since Creature Feature in the 1970s on Channel 50.
Out of Detroit, WKVD out of Detroit, Creature Feature, 1 o'clock on Saturdays. Man, Saturdays. And especially, it was harder to watch Creature Feature in the summer because we were, Mom always had us doing chores and busy and stuff. But in the winter, man, it was Creature Feature domain. It was amazing. Yeah. Loved Saturday.
So you got your cleaning done before 1 o'clock so you could watch Creature Feature.
Creature Feature. So then you watch Creature Feature, and then you had a little break, and then Dad would usually bring Banquet Chicken, and we would have Banquet Chicken, and then we would watch Star Trek on Saturday. Oh my gosh, Saturday was the greatest.
Isn't it? Cable Schmegel.
It was literally the opposite of Sunday. It's like you could sleep in a little bit, you could have your cartoons, then you had to clean, then you had Creature Feature, and then you had chicken and Star Trek. Unlike Sunday, which was church. I didn't like church as a little girl.
Church. Lots of churching.
Oh my God, so much church. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, Anne, would you like to take us through some Cabin in the Woods?
I would love to take you through some Cabin in the Woods. So, Cabin in the Woods is about 5 college-age friends who go to an isolated cabin in the woods for rest and relaxation. Does that sound familiar?
Dun dun
Uh,
dun.
what awaits them is ancient curses and murder. Sound familiar? That's the point. In fact,
That
this
is the
movie
whole.
seems to have every horror movie trope, and that's kind of the point of this movie. But why? Well, in order to save humanity, duh. It's also a comedy, a dark one, but a comedy.
And
So,
it's still a comedy, and that's all that matters. So there.
yeah. So if you've seen this before, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it before, what have you been waiting for? It's been out for like 9 years. You need to see this movie. It's if you don't like horror movies, or you don't like copious amounts, gallons of gore, then maybe you don't want to see this. But otherwise, you should definitely watch this movie. So
it is on Amazon Prime, so you can just get it on Prime. It's there.
Exactly. It's also on Hulu. So if you have Hulu or Amazon Prime, it's on both of them. So for one, it's very clever. It's clever because it takes in every horror movie that you've ever seen plays a little part in this movie. There's this gallery of nightmare creatures that it must have been a blast to come up with. The path to sacrifice is, like I said, it's like every horror movie trope. Every time you think, you've seen, oh, I've seen this, it's like every single time, and it's this whole path through this movie. The choice at the end to let it all burn is beautiful. And I love the system purge, because that's literally a button that somebody pushes, system purge, and then all hell breaks loose. And the funny thing is, it's not even really all hell yet. And oh yes, very important, and why I chose this picture, because it's a merman. Be careful what you wish for, because you might get it.
Yes. Oh, come on.
Cabin in the Woods, exactly. Cabin in the Woods is another example of how the horror movie genre does a really good job of reflecting us as humans and our society. So that's one of the reasons why I really like horror movies, is because it really is one of the best reflections of who we are as a society. And Cabin in the Woods is brilliant at it. I mean, they literally do a brilliant job. There's 2 different areas of comic relief. If you've seen this, you know what I'm talking about. If not, one is in the cabin. There's a character whose name is Marty, played by Fran Kranz, who's actually more of a Broadway actor. Very funny. He plays a stoner who is stoner philosopher, of course, the best type of philosopher. And then, of course, at the headquarters, we have Steve, played by Bradley Whitford, which you probably remember best from the Martin Sheen White House.
That one president show.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it now. I've had too much zombie already. And then, of course, Gary, which is played by Richard Jenkins. So the 2 of them playing off each other is awesome. And then Sigourney Weaver has a very small cameo part, but of course we have to give a shout out for anything that Sigourney Weaver does. So these are reasons why I like this movie. It's really entertaining. It's funny. It's the thing is, like, they have this weird combination of having every single horror movie trope, and yet managing to be extremely original.
Indeed. Agreed. To go with that, I'm gonna come back to this. I'm gonna give my thoughts on this movie first, and then we're gonna come back and talk about our horror movie favorites. So my thoughts on Cabin in the Woods is everything that you said, and just the fact that it's so much fun to pick out which horror flick they're ripping on at any given time. So, for instance, the cabin itself, that is exactly the cabin that you see in Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. The whole lake thing where they're like splashing around the lake, that's straight out of Friday the 13th. Those sorts of things. The sexy hot chick who gets murdered. again, pretty much every Friday the
Every.
13th movie, or pretty much
Mhm.
any horror movie, period. So
Mhm.
that's fun, is that you can be like, oh man, they totally pulled that from this. And that's, again, the point. When you watch this movie for the first time, you are going to be questioning your sanity for a while, because you're like, what in the
Mhm.
hell is happening? And then it starts to come together, and you're like, oh, no way.
Mhm.
Okay, you mentioned earlier the array of nightmare creatures that they have in their stable, and I got to
Uh-huh.
tell you, it really is something to behold. And I worry about the minds who think of things like that, because it is
Mhm.
horrible.
Mhm. Totally.
And then finally, I think in the end, Marty and Dana make the right choice. It had to
Mhm.
end. They were right.
They
So
were
it's
right.
tough, but they made the right call.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
there you go.
how many times, I mean, aren't we a little tired of the sacrifice of the heroes? I'm like, I have to admit, I'm a little tired of that. I'm tired of that
Yeah.
Star Wars trope where the
Yep.
heroes make the ultimate sacrifice. You know what? Screw you. As some
Yes.
of my students used to say, fuck all y'all.
You know, Ann, it's funny. I have some students that have said that to me from here and there in my
Yeah,
teaching past.
exactly. Oh, thank you, Eric. You said West Wing.
Yes, thank you, Eric. We literally would have been sitting here for the rest of the day being like, yeah, that one show with Martin Sheen is the president. So Eric
Right.
Block to the rescue. The West Wing. Thanks, dude. You're the best.
Thank you. I would have never gotten
Yes.
there.
I would have gotten there tomorrow. Or, I would have gotten
tomorrow.
there if I would have asked Joe, because Joe has watched the whole series, I think, twice. So,
Wow.
and I tried to watch it, and I'm like, oh, what else is on? You know what it is? It's Aaron Sorkin's dialogue is exhausting. God, you're just like, I'm so tired of listening to this. It's amazing, but sometimes when I get home from work, I just want to watch, Parks and Rec, because it's funny.
Exactly, or 30 Rock, exactly.
Oh yes, because it's funny. So Joe and I are doing that right now. We're on our second run through of Schitt's Creek because it's funny.
Because it's funny.
It's funny. Yeah. So, all right. So, and we're going to go. So, we decided the other day that we would not only talk about Cabin in the Woods, because Cabin in the Woods is like an amalgamum. I think that's the word.
Amalgamation?
Yeah. Okay, good. Amalgamation of all of these horror movies. So, let's pick out our faves. So, let's start with yours, your top 5 horror movies. And yeah, I'll let you take care of that. Let's go.
Okay, so my number 5 on my top 5, and this was hard. I have to tell you that this was way harder than my top 5 movie list, because I kept remembering horror movies. In fact, I could probably do 10 so easily. So my number 5 was Pan's Labyrinth, 2006, directed by Guillermo del Toro. This is actually number 2 on my all-time favorite movies. So this there's a monster in this that's awesome. He's got, oh my God, it's so terrifying. So yes. Pan's Labyrinth, a Spanish language movie, so worth the time and effort. My next one was one that I had almost forgotten about, which I was trying to remember. I'm like, oh, I don't have a zombie movie. What zombie movie? And then, of course, 28 Days Later, 2002, directed by Danny Boyle, who's also directed Slumdog Millionaire and the Trainspotting movies. So he's a very accomplished director, just like Guillermo del Toro is in Pan's Labyrinth, both extremely, I think it takes a really good director to do an excellent horror movie. But 28 Days Later, kind of a zombie movie, though it's not zombies, it's infected. Terrifying. 2 different terrifying parts. First, the infected are terrifying, and then, of course, the us as humans are terrifying. My number 3 is Us, 2019, directed by Jordan Peele. And he also did Get Out, which would also be in my top 10. So, if you haven't seen that, it's really screwed up. Also, a nice homage to Hands Across America, which I'd totally forgotten about. Number 2 is It Follows. This is an independent film, came out in 2014, directed by David Robert Mitchell. And if you live in Michigan, you should see this movie, because most of it was filmed in the Metro Detroit area. Really great movie. It's a modern morality play, basically. That whole idea in a lot of, especially slasher horror movies, is the punishment of youth, punishment of sexuality, punishment of women, and this kind of turns that on its head. So it's a very interesting take on a morality play. And then finally, Aliens, which we talked about, I think last month. 1996, directed by James Cameron. And the reason why this is my number one is because I saw this when I was 18, and the entire movie, no movie since Aliens has terrified me the way Aliens has. And I mean, other movies have freaked me out and disgusted me or scared the heck out of me, but from like the very beginning to the very end, this movie was terrifying. In fact, when I first saw it, I described it as I lost weight watching this movie. I was so terrified. So, and no other movie has ever done that. So that's why it's still in my number one spot.
That's cool. Yeah, and that I would agree. This is a great list. I didn't put Pan's Labyrinth in mind because Pan's Labyrinth is almost too beautiful to be a horror movie. That's what takes me aback from that movie, is that it is so artistic and beautiful, and the story in it is so moving that I found I couldn't put it in as a horror movie. And that's just personal choice. But
right. Well, and that's the thing about Guillermo del Toro, is all of his movies are beautiful.
Yes, without a doubt. Absolutely gorgeous. And so that was the only, but yeah, that's such a fantastic and beautiful movie. But and we had some similarities. This is my top 5, and I'm going to give my little honorable mention after the fact because damn, there's some good movies out there. My number 5 was The Conjuring. Any movie that makes me go cold, literally physically cold while I'm watching it, is going to be in my top 5 for sure. And the little hide and seek scene that takes place in The Conjuring literally blew my doors off, and it's like I feel icky effective. Number 4 is The Others, which is one of those movies. This came out, I don't know, like 2001, 2002, somewhere in there. It is a slow burn, and it's a psychological thriller. It's just straight up. It's a magnificent ghost story, straight up creepy as bleep. And
the thing is, Americans don't do very good ghost stories, and I forgot about that one, and it's an awesome movie. You're right.
It has a very it's set not in England, it's set in the Maldives, which are islands south of England, during / after World War I, and straight up great movie. There was a time when Nicole Kidman was not really considered. I mean, the woman has won Oscars, obviously, but when she started out, she was kind of like Tom Cruise's little boy toy, with like Days of Thunder. But, this is one of those movies that, like Nicole Kidman's got some serious chops. And this is one of those movies where we really see that. And it's like I started, my opinion of her really started to change in the early 2000s. And this is one of those movies where it's like, you go, girl. It was really good. Love this movie. Number 3, It Follows, like you. One of the reasons I love this movie is that it's just completely different. Sexually transmitted demon. Yup.
Yep.
Clever. Yeah. Great movie. Totally recommend it. And I find myself, even now, if I'm walking or running and there's somebody behind me, creeping out a little bit. It's like, that's creepy. Okay. So, I don't know. Number 2 for me was Alien. The difference for me, and I realized that Aliens this is the prequel to Aliens. This came out in 1979, Sigourney Weaver, directed by Ridley Scott. This is, again, a slow burn. To me, it feels more horror genre than Aliens. To me, Aliens feels more action-packed. This one has more of that, the dread, that continual building of dread that you get in a horror movie. That's why I love this one. And again, in space, no one can hear you scream. And it's true.
No one can hear you scream. Yeah. Great monster.
Number 1
great monster.
For me is 28 Days Later. This movie scared the bleep out of me because, we start out with a young man, Cillian, what is his last name?
Oh, I can't remember. Murphy.
Cillian Murphy, thank you. Cillian Murphy, and this is why I always thought it was funny, because when you have The Walking Dead on AMC, the beginning of that is a straight up ripoff of 28 Days Later, because he's a bike messenger who's in an accident. He wakes up 28 days after his accident and in London, and he had no idea what's going on. And of course, we do find out he's been infected with rage, and he is totally screwed, and it's amazing. And again, it's terrifying because imagine his confusion as to where he is, what's happening, and then you find out on top of that everybody has been infected with this rage virus, and that you are. And it's 2 different horror movies. The first part of the movie, we are afraid of those that have been infected by rage, and in the second part of the movie, we are horrified by the survivors. It's literally 2 different horror movies all in one. It's amazing. So sweating just thinking about having to run away from everybody that has rage.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And here's my honorable mention. My honorable mention is It Chapter 1, Us. And again, I thought about Get Out because Get Out is also, but Get Out doesn't feel, it almost feels like something bigger than a horror movie. The message within Get Out is so much deeper and somehow more terrifying that it sort of transcends horror and comes into something so much more dramatic and there's so much more societal implications that are going on in that movie that to me it transcends horror and goes on to something much higher. So Us, again, straight up great horror movie. Classics, 2 classics on the list: Rosemary's Baby and The Omen. Just your basic son of Satan movies, whatever. The Crazy, which is a great viral zombie movie. And then
that's actually a remake.
The Crazies is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, George Romero. So I would suggest seeing both the first and the second because they're both terrifying. And the remake, the one that they did in the in 2000s, is almost exactly the same. But Timothy Olyphant, ugh,
so cute,
damn baby. Yeah. So yeah, no, and I forgot about The Crazies until you mentioned it. I was like, oh God, yeah, that movie. I mean, and it starts off boom. I mean, everything starts going to hell very quickly in that movie. So you do not have to wait.
Crazies. Yep. And then, Anne, you had mentioned on your list was Heredity, and I have not actually seen that yet. And frankly, Anne, I have not seen it yet because I do not have the intestinal fortitude to watch it yet.
You do need some intestinal fortitude because the interesting thing about Heredity is that, again, it's a slow burn, very slow burn. The story itself is so engaging. You almost forget you're in a horror movie until something so violent and abominable happens that you remember, you're like, oh yeah, this is
it's
a horror
movie. Oh, that's right.
So it's really, really an interesting take on horror. And like I said, a lot of times you don't get to know the characters very well because they're just so busy trying to scare the hell out of you. But in this one, the storyline is so compelling. You get so sucked in, and then something happens. You're like, and it literally knocks you over. Of course, the end is horrific. So in case you're not, if you're not into horror, do not see Heredity. If you like something that's going to really screw you up, go for it.
Jeannie Caselli wanted to remind us that Halloween is a fabulous horror movie. And I am not personally a lover of the movie Halloween, but I will give Halloween full credit for being the beginning of something when it comes to essentially creating the genre of horror movies. I feel like Halloween was a landmark with that. Even though you already had things like Jaws and Rosemary's Baby and stuff like that, Halloween was like, boom, this is a thing. Yeah. And it really did open the door for your Friday the 13th and your Nightmares on Elm Street and all of those.
Right. Well, and the movie that we both had on our list, It Follows. We would not have It Follows if it wasn't for movies like Halloween and the ones that came after that, and Nightmare on Elm Street and
for real,
Freddy Krueger, sure. Yeah, all of those. It Follows is because those other movies came before it. So, though I'm not a fan of Halloween or the Freddy Krueger movie or any of those movies, I do see the impact that they've made on the genre now. So again, Cabin in the Woods. We wouldn't have Cabin in the Woods if it wasn't for those movies.
Correct. No, absolutely, and you kind of see that with the we'll call the Buckner family in Cabin in the Woods is essentially a straight ripoff of Mike Myers. It is so, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Eric Bloch, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, again, classic. I would agree.
It is a very good, but yeah, it's the loss of self, and that's kind of that, again, that zombie, though it's not a zombie movie, it's that idea of the loss of self, and that's it was a good movie. I saw it when I was babysitting, so I was like, oh, it's so scary.
Jeannie also has chimed in with the music. That's not a movie that I am familiar with. So
no, I think the music from Halloween.
Oh, the music from Halloween. Okay, I thought that was maybe an actual like horror movie, but yeah, and I would agree that the music from Halloween
Iconic.
Iconic, I would agree. The music from The Exorcist, iconic. Let's address the fact, Anne, that if you go to pretty much every list about the top horror movies, The Exorcist is always right in the top 5. And I'm not a lover of that movie. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't, because I'm not big into the possession movies. I think they're tedious. Especially, the whole like trying to expel the demon from the body. I just that and slasher movies, or like the torture ones. I think it's less interesting and more, it's more about the horror within instead of the horror without. And I think some of the best horror movies have to do with, we think it's the monster, but it's actually the monster in us. So in possession movies, the monster is external that comes in, and I don't know. I just think they're not my favorite. I mean, I know a lot of people like them, but they're just not my favorite.
Yeah, the closest I got was Rosemary's Baby and The Omen in my honorable mentions. Jeannie says Shaun of the Dead. In Shaun of the Dead, I would call that, and this is one of the things that I love about the Cornetto trilogy, which is directed by Nick Wright and starring Simon Pegg, is that they do amazing homages. Shaun of the Dead is a fantastic homage to George Romero. Hot Fuzz is a fantastic homage to every awesome action movie of the 90s.
Cop movies.
Totally cop movies. I'm trying to think of that last one they did. God, what was the name of the last one? Joe, what's the name of that last movie in the World's End? Yeah, World's End is a great aliens. It's a really a great homage to Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So
right.
So I would agree that Shaun of the Dead is a fantastic zombie movie. It would not make my top 10 because it is not. It's an homage, like Cabin in the Woods, essentially. So, and yes, and Jeannie was talking about the music to Halloween.
Yeah.
So it's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you hear it, you know what it is. So that's, I think the music itself is scarier than the movie, personally. But it's just like it's like the Psycho. It sets you up for terror.
Well, see, and that's what I love about this is that there are things like Jaws. John Williams' score to Jaws makes the movie Jaws. I mean, there's just little things like, what is it in Friday the 13th? Jan Stoffer says she can't watch these because she can't sleep for days. And honestly, Jan, that's the reason I can't currently watch Heredity. I just I have to be in literally the right frame of mind, and everything has to be going great for me to watch a really good horror movie. And Heredity, I think, is going to be one of those movies. So, Jan, I get it.
Yeah, no, I'd be the first person to tell you that, boy, you better be, because you can't take it back. Let's just say that.
I don't want to be scared. So no, I totally get it. Totally get it. So all right. Well, Ann Brothers, my zombie is nearly empty. And I gotta tell you, even with my modified zombie, I'm buzzing pretty good right now. So
am I. I'm getting funnier by the second. I can feel it.
I do too. I'm like, my face is getting red and I am much funnier.
Duncan just said that he wants to, because he's sitting behind me listening to this. He said John Carpenter's The Thing.
You know what? I almost put that on my top 5 because I rewatched that. I was on the treadmill. We have our little person powered treadmill and so I was on the treadmill, I don't know, a couple months ago, and thought, I need to rewatch this movie. And damn, it's a great movie. And it's funny because this movie was completely panned when it came out. In fact, considered one of the worst movies of 1981.
Wow.
And I don't get it because it's really a great horror movie. Psychologically damaging. You don't know who's been aliened and who hasn't. That scene where where he's sitting there with the petri dishes trying to figure things out. You're like, ooh. Yeah.
No, and the fact that it was all done pre-computer. I mean, this is all done with puppets, and none of this is computer generated. So
yeah. In fact, I feel bad I didn't put it on my honorable mention list because I forgot. I just totally forgot to. But John Carpenter's Thing. I think it was either 1980 or 1981. Kurt Russell, who's very Kurt Russell movie, and you know what? Kurt Russell is awesome in everything. Not that he's a great actor, but he's so awesome in everything.
He picks exactly the right movies for himself. So
He does, and we love him, for that. Thank you, Kurt Russell. You're
exactly.
amazing. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
So if you haven't seen the thing, the newer version, which, like you said, 1980, 1981 of the thing with Kurt Russell, definitely check that out because it is weathered well. I can't believe that was like one of the worst movies. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. They didn't know what they were talking about.
Widely panned. I'm like, you know what, dude, go back. It's great. It's scary as poop. So yeah. So we are back on Sunday, and Sunday I'm going to take some time, and we're going to talk wildfires because California is on fire,
it is.
and Colorado is
Colorado.
also on fire, super burning up right now. And Susie Nelson, you asked me a couple days ago to talk about fire vortices, and so we're going to do that as well. We're going to kind of give a little explanation of just real scraping the surface of fire science. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about on Sunday. So we will see you Sunday for brunch. Ooh, speaking of fire, Gina Caselli says, Firestarter has not weathered well. And I'm not surprised to hear that. Not surprised at all.
It wasn't my favorite book, so I can't imagine it would weather well.
There's like this string of 1980s Stephen King that they made into movies, and they're not good. It's like that one and Dead Zone, not great. What's the Pet Cemetery? Horrifying.
Oh,
so bad.
That was in the 80s, but that's terrible.
Yeah, but no, like there was a bunch of those 1980s Stephen King adaptations that were not good. You can go back to Carrie in the 70s. Carrie was good. That was a good adaptation.
Right.
But what was the other one? God, the one about the car, Christine. Oh, so bad, so bad. And I know
get out of the car, people.
Before we go, I didn't think The Shining was that great. Okay, the Shining with Jack Nicholson is not great. It's not a. If you've read the book, the book is out. The book is so good, and there's a reason that you don't see Stephen King's name on the Jack Nicholson version of that movie because it's not great. It's not his book, and it's.
And the book is so good.
So good, and the movie isn't. I know they just did a re-adaptation of that with I don't know who was in it. Ewan McGregor, was he in that? I don't know. I didn't see it because again, I just feel like there's so much going on with that story at all different levels that I don't see how you capture that in a movie. I just don't. So.
I think you'd literally have to do it as a miniseries, like
a
HBO or Netflix. You need to pick that up because that would be great, but you can't do it in 2 hours. It's impossible.
No, there's far too much going on. So anyway, so we've been chatting at you guys for close to 40 minutes now, so we'll let you guys go. Thank you for joining us, you guys. I love hearing people's different thoughts on stuff like this. And so, like I said, we'll be back. We're doing some smart stuff on Sunday. We're going to talk fire. We're going to talk wildfires, California, Colorado. Throw some love out to you and let you know that we're thinking about you. And again, Susie, going to answer your question about fire tornadoes. Yes, those are a real thing.
They really are, unfortunately.
You do not want to be out in front of one of those. Holy hell. So, all right. So we'll see you guys on Sunday. Thanks for joining us. And brothers, great job today.
You too, Jenny Brothers. Thank you. Wonderful drink idea.
I know, right? Sweating from the alcohol. Yay.
Me too. All right, I'm going to go lay down. Bye.
Okay, nap time. Bye.